Good evening, everyone. Brian Smith, welcome you to another edition of the Daily Night. It is truly the night edition, as I was in Orlando earlier today, and I went to Gus Malzahn's press conference, and I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. So sorry for the late start, but it is actually productive based on the information gathered from the press conference and a few other notes that I want to mix in based on Mikey Keene and what all the injuries mean to the Knights as they prepare for Navy. First off, please do note that Gus Malzahn mentioned a very, very important piece to the media today during his press conference, and that is that Matthew Lee practiced on Sunday night. He is the starting center. For those of you that are not that well versed with football, there are certain positions that are overlooked in terms of their importance, and especially with the starting quarterback being a true freshman, center is absolutely paramount. You want a good football player there. You want an experienced guy there. You want a healthy guy there. All the above. Matthew missed the Louisville game. He tried to go, could not play, and they moved Cole Snyder over, and they were fine. But you still want that guy. He helps set the protections up front. He makes sure that everybody is in a position to be successful on each and every play. If something happens up front that he sees and Mikey tries to make a check, he might signal to him or give him some kind of indication that, hey, this isn't a good idea. Maybe they call timeout, whatever it may be. Having him there and having Snyder at guard is his best option, period. Those are two great players that are probably going to get paid to play football in the very near future. You want them both on the field. Secondly, just as simple as it gets, and a reference to the first game in regards to this, I mentioned during the Boise State game coming up right before, I said at least one of these two teams is going to have a special teams blunder. Something goofy is going to happen. Well, this can happen at center as well. Unfortunately for Boise State, the long snapper sent one to Mars, and it was a 29-yard loss and a safety for Boise State. That same kind of situation can happen with another center. It could be Snyder or anybody else. Either you are the true everyday center or you are not. Even as good as Snyder is, it's more likely. That's another reason you want it. He's making his first start. It's on the road. Mikey Keene needs to have everything consistent, all his ducks in a row, period. You could just tell by the look on Gus Malzahn's face. He was very, very concerned going into like yesterday's practice. He wanted to see him. You could just tell. I didn't even need Gus to say anything other than we practiced. And it was just like a relief. Like he had $100,000 debt taken off his desk. You know what I mean? It was really, really important to him. And he's right. He's absolutely right. So with that, I've got a list of players here, and I'm probably missing somebody. I'm going to go through each one of them and how, even if it's not an offensive player, because some are defense, some of the injuries could impact UCF and specifically Mikey Keene if they don't play. For the record, Gus was asked multiple times about everybody else. He would not comment other than to say every other injury is, quote unquote, week to week. Again, week to week. We have no idea what the injury specifically is, et cetera, et cetera. My guess is it's more gamesmanship because coaches hate giving out injury news, but at the same time, he did give the Matthew Lee information, so maybe he really doesn't know. I have no idea. Bottom line is we don't know the specifics, and these are some really good football players. These are guys, again, several of them are probably going to get paid to play football at some point. When you lose those, I don't care if you're Alabama, it's not a good thing. So I want to kind of go over it in my interpretation of why it impacts UCF and specifically Mikey Keene. Again, this is his first start. He's a true freshman. It's on the road, and they're playing a team that if you make mistakes, you don't get as many possessions. I'll go into that a little bit more tomorrow in an article. But you have to be able to keep Navy on the sidelines and score when you can, because instead of getting like 12 possessions in a game, typically somewhere in that range, you might only get 8 to 10 against Navy. They eat up the clock. They run the option. They don't pass more than like 3 to 5 times a game, give or take. And if you have an extra turnover more than like everybody usually turns the ball over once a game, kind of just generically speaking, a fumble or a pick. If you have a 3 turnover game or anything else, little things like this with injuries could be part of it, but they also add to that problem. It's a conundrum that I'm sure Coach Malzahn and his entire coaching staff have talked about. Ball security this week, huge priority. It's a priority every week, but with a freshman quarterback, you can't make his job harder. So with that, I'm just going to go down the list, starting on offense and then move to the back end of the defense. And actually, the most important guy might be a defensive back, but I'll get to that in a moment. First off is Isaiah Bowser. Not only is he a good running back, and most people are going to evaluate him from one specific perspective, he can run the football. Well, no kidding, he's a running back. But in today's college football, and especially in somebody like Coach Malzahn's offense, what he likes to run, what G.J. Kinney likes to run, etc., they need him to be a blocker as much, if quite frankly, not more, than a runner. That's especially true with the true freshman back there. Just like with Matthew Lee, he's setting protections up front, and Matthew's really good at it. That's great. But the running back has a responsibility. Whatever the heck it is, he needs to do it. Sometimes if he's, just as an example, if he's lined up to the right of Mikey in the shotgun, he may have to cross his face or go around however they set it up to block somebody coming off the edge on the opposite side. It may not be something that he sees initially because he may be looking to his right. And there's a guy acting like he's coming. He's all ready. That guy's faking. He's dropping into coverage. Lo and behold, the guy that's 2 yards off the ball, playing linebacker on the other side, guess what he's doing? Screaming down the line. Here he comes. You better get across there. That freshman's probably not going to see that. I know Mikey's a little different than most. I like my chances with Isaiah Bowser in the game. He's a bigger back anyways, 225. He's a big old dude. And if they don't have him, and again, no idea if he's going to play, you might see UCF adjust in the following ways. Number one, Johnny is a great running back and he can catch it on that, but he's not a massive guy by any stretch of the imagination. He's a $170, maybe a $175. He's not who I want blocking. Not against a 225-pound outside linebacker or bigger, and depending on which game you're talking about. He's going to hold his own. He's really strong for his size, but he doesn't have the length that Bowser does. He doesn't have the same strength that he does. I highly doubt he's going to hold up quite the same. Maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am. But there could be other ways to do it. This is something that a lot of teams do. NFL does this especially. H-back / tight end / big receiver, whatever. They will run them in motion. They will just flat out take a guy out of the pattern, put him at H-back, a tight end or something, or even in the backfield as an extra blocker. They're like, to heck with it. We're not going to have turnovers. Our quarterback can't get hit. And if you think about it, Keene's the second quarterback. If he gets hurt, Joey's the next quarterback, and he doesn't even know the offense yet. He just knows bits and pieces of it. Gus mentioned that as well today. Cannot have Keene get hurt. That is just remotely not an option, period. He's going to get all the reps this week in practice. You would see a very ugly offense in a lot of ways if Joey had to go in, because they have to give all the reps to Keene pretty much. Joey's got a package, and that's fine, but he's just not going to be on the same level in terms of the passing game because he doesn't have the same continuity with the receivers. That's just how college football works. It's even more so in the NFL level. Quarterback goes down, you are in trouble. Keene's adaptive and all that. That's great, but he's going to get the reps this week. That doesn't mean that Gatewood isn't a good quarterback, but he's not going to get hardly any. You need him to stay healthy. They're going to adjust with the tight end. They're going to chip defensive ends. They won't be as aggressive with the passing routes. That's my guess. And Bowser is a big part of that. If he doesn't play, it adds to it. I really hope he plays just to run the ball, and I really enjoy watching him. But if he does not, look for UCF to adjust in that manner. Obviously, the one that most people are really curious about is Jaylon. Jaylon is not your average receiver by UCF, Alabama, or anywhere else. He makes plays that cannot be taught. For anybody that is listening to this that has forgotten, and I have no idea why you would, the catch that Jaylon made against Louisville was a play that Chris Carter, the Hall of Fame wide receiver, would tip his cap. He might have the greatest hands in the history of the NFL. Hall of Famer, just absolute stud. Played at Ohio State, was All-American, Vikings, etc. Great football player. Chris Carter would have just, I can just see the look on Carter's an excitable guy. Just freak out when he sees that play. 4th down in the end zone, national TV, only game on. Dylan doesn't throw a good ball. Way behind him, catches it with the left hand. If he doesn't play, and I know Navy stinks, they're a bad football team, that changes your offense. It changes how Navy plays too high look, or they're going to play a little man, which I doubt. They don't have super big corners or anything, and I doubt they have a lot of skill at that position. They're giving up over 30 points a game. They're not very good on either side of the ball, only 10 on offense too. But it still changes the rhythm for Mikey Keene, and it changes what G.J. Kinney and Coach Malzahn and the entire coaching staff wants to do on offense. He is a game breaker. The reason it's so important for this game, and again, even if he doesn't play, I expect UCF to win by double digits. Just go ahead and throw that out there. They cannot lose him for the following reason. Rhythm. Again, this is Mikey's first start. The more reps that he gets with Jaylon in live action, even if it's against a downtrodden team like Navy and they stink, the more it will help him when they play East Carolina and then this other team you might have heard of, and it's on the road, Cincinnati. They need every single rep with Jaylon in the lineup. I don't have to ask Gus Malzahn that. I don't need to ask G.J. Kinney that or Jaylon or Mikey or anybody. That's just a flat-out fact. He doesn't play, it hurts them long-term. Not this week. They're going to beat Navy anyway. They need him for the long-term haul to be healthy, to get into a rhythm. And if he's out with a leg injury or whatever, and I have no idea even what if it's upper body or lower body, changes your conditioning and everything else. That's an impactful situation in many different fronts. So for this game, I mean, I don't think it's going to matter much. They have Robinson sitting on the sidelines, okay, but they still have O'Keefe. They got Johnson. They'll be fine there. And Amari is also going to come in. I don't think it's going to matter much. And I also believe, just a little hint here, my pick already for player of the game, regardless of Bowser plays or not, is Johnny, because I don't think that Navy's going to handle his speed, and he is flat out electric. He is in the Desmond Howard and Rocket Ismail, Peter Warwick. He's in that realm for people that kind of like me, grew up in the late 80s to early 2000s watching college football and shaping my mindset on what an explosive player is. Guys that could win the Heisman Trophy, guys that could get drafted in the first round, guys that could go to the top of the board in the NFL, etc. That kind of, are you kidding me, speed and athleticism. Johnny has that. Navy just doesn't match up very well with that. That being said, I'll be interested to see if Titus gets some more reps at receiver. He's caught on pretty good. I know Dylan's his buddy, and that's one of the reasons he played early. And it's one of the reasons he picked UCF. But I really hope that Titus and some of the other receivers get a chance to do some things. I have no idea what their rotation is going to be. None. They could do things differently. They might go more 22 package, meaning 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, try to pound the ball. I don't know. They could do some different things, experimenting with Johnny in the back. They got to get Johnny in the game more. That's why I bring up the 2 running back package. We'll see. But it's something to note. If Jaylon is out, they're going to adjust how they see fit against Navy. And their front is not big. Their D tackles are 260 or so. With UCF's offensive line, which could compete against any SEC front 7, Navy's in for a long afternoon, in my opinion. So moving to defense, yet again, I might have missed somebody here. I just wrote down some notes. Ricky Barber, when he went out against Louisville, UCF's defense didn't have the same pack, just that punch, excuse me. They didn't have that same punch up front. Teams could really focus on Kalia, which they're going to kind of do anyway. Kalia is their best defensive player, in my opinion, and probably by a pretty large margin because he can make plays other guys can't. But teams are starting to double him anyway. If Ricky does not play, it will change their run defense. Well, guess what Navy does? That's all they do is run. It's full of misdirection and fakes. That's what the triple option is. And for those of you that haven't seen it before, you're going to be frustrated. It is annoying to watch for the first time. You will lose the ball constantly, literally. Ricky being out, and he's 310. Now, you can't replace that kind of space eater, for one. 2, it's a rotational guy against a team that'll sometimes go up-tempo based on their history. I think that could change what Mikey does in terms of play calling. The reason is I think Navy, they're averaging 10 points a game. They're going to score more than 10. If UCF struggles at all on offense, Ricky being out could be a problem. They may not score every time, but it's hard to keep them off the field. And Navy goes for it a lot on 4th down anyway, 4th and 1, 4th and 2. Losing a 310-pound defensive tackle is not good news. No idea what his injury is either. None. But he missed a good portion of the Louisville game. Keep that in mind. If Ricky doesn't play, especially in those short yardage situations, that impacts both sides of the ball. Changes your play calling potentially. It certainly changes Navy's. I'm sure they like looking over there and say, "Oh, Ricky Barber's not out there." They're going to notice that. That's the first thing up in the booth. They're going to call down to Ken, their head coach. I'm not even going to try to say his last name. I'm not good enough. But Ricky not being in there is an issue. The last guy that I want to mention before getting to my really key player, and it'll go in a little more depth, is Tatum Bethune. He missed a little bit of time, but came back in against Louisville. I don't know if he's just in a situation he got dinged. I would like to hear, but he's probably the most likely out of that group to play. He came back in the Louisville game. But sometimes things swell. Sometimes they look at things and reevaluate and say, hey, let's hold off. He is a heat-seeking missile when he is running downhill to tackle somebody. The guy has a nose for the football. He's one of the leading tacklers on the team, and he's a leader. Again, much like with Barber, if he's not in the game, it changes what the Navy offense does. It probably changes the scoreboard. Then it changes what you do on offense and your play calling for, guess what? True freshman quarterback Mikey Keene. Every one of these plays are connected. And it's why I use this phrase all the time. I'm sure somebody came up with it long ago before me. But my definition to somebody that is coming in to learn about football would be 2 words. Football is best described as violent chess. You got 11 pieces on both sides beating the bejesus out of each other, but it's very strategic. One player being out of position, out of 11, meaning 10 did their job, and it can be a 75-yard touchdown, especially when you're playing Navy, a team that is very good at doing just what they are. Just like you think of the Navy and the Army and all that in general, just do your job. Well, that's what they do in football too. We're not going to be complicated in terms of what we do. It's hard for you because it's a unique scheme running the triple option. But if any of your guys are out of position, our guys are just going to keep on running. They're happy to get 3 yards on first down or 4 yards. They'll ding you to death. But if you give them a lane all the way to this thing they call the end zone, they're happy to take that too. Inside linebackers are important to rotate. Gilliard will come in and play. If Tatum's banged up or can't play as much, he doesn't play at all, I get that. But you still want to have a rotation. And having him out there is very important. Now, the last one, this is something, and it depends on what Travis Williams and the defense wants to do in general, and I have no idea how they're going to attack Navy. There's a lot of different theories on how to approach Navy and the triple option, and Barber and Bethune not playing or not playing as much will impact the following as well. If you have a situation where your starting corner, in this case, Thornton, he got banged up early in the game when Malik made that touchdown run to the left, hurt his shoulder, hurt his arm. I couldn't really tell, but he was down for a while. When a starting corner goes out, now I don't care if it's a player that's a freshman, a senior, or anything else. Nobody in college football, Alabama included, has enough corners. 0 teams. The reason is everybody throws the ball, the defense chases, and your guys get wore out more. And if they're really good, they probably turn pro early. It's just a constant struggle. Everybody needs more corners, Alabama included. UCF's biggest weakness right now is probably corner. That's just reality. If he is out, that's one less guy in the rotation. That's one less experienced guy. And specific to Navy, Corey's a big dude for a corner. He's 6'1", 190, 6'2", 190, somewhere in that range. He's put together. He's a physical football player. He fits for what you would want to do, just hypothetically speaking, in playing against the option because it's about tackling. I'd rather have bigger corners than smaller corners against Navy because they're going to be going against chop blocks. They're going to be going against guys, crack block, everything else. It's awful playing against Navy's offense for any player, D-line especially, but the linebackers and DBs get some of that too. You need more physical guys to take that on. Again, just like with Tatum out or with Ricky Barber being out, potentially speaking, if he misses something and he's in the running lane, they call them lanes. They have their areas, their zones. I don't know if they're going to play man or zone or whatever. Any DB that is not in position, the most explosive play historically with the triple option, you got the fullback, then the quarterback, and then the wing back. Navy doesn't pitch it a ton to the wing back, but if the DB is out of position, hint, it's more likely with the backup in. He's got a running start, and it's a really fast guy. The wing back's usually a smaller player. There's a greater chance for chunk yardage runs. And it's also an impact with the following. Navy, like I said earlier, will throw 3 to 5 times. It's not a lot. But when you never know when it's coming and they run the same freaking formations over and over again, you have no idea if it's run or pass, right or left, up the middle. That's why that offense is annoying and successful. Then there's one other thing. If you have a DB that gets too nosy looking to get himself in on the tackle near the line of scrimmage, that receiver comes out like he's going to block and then just goes around you, that can be a problem. This impacts Mikey Keene too, because quite frankly, if you're going to look at a team like Navy, they've got to, if they have any chance against UCF, they got to have a couple of really big passing plays. I mean, not like 20 yards, I mean 60. And they can do that. They can throw for 140 yards, complete 2 or 3 passes. They've done it to other teams over the years. If you have a guy out of position, it's more likely. I'm worried about this, especially if it happens early and it kind of freaks Keene out. He looks up at the scoreboard and maybe gets the ball first. If they score on like a 70-yard play or something, you don't know how a freshman quarterback's going to react. I don't care how experienced he is, isn't experienced. It's not a good feeling anyway. But throw in it's his first start and it's on the road and he's a true freshman. I don't like that. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Daily Night. Tomorrow I'll be back on a more normal schedule. I'll have something up early in the morning, no later than 10, probably by 9. But tomorrow I'm going to go over some film. Finally getting a chance to dive into some of that tomorrow morning. I wanted to save it until I found out injury news is not as much I'd like. Kind of go over what they did well against Louisville on both sides of the ball, and also talk a little bit about what I think they can do against Navy. It's going to be fun for Knights fans. Trust me, tomorrow will be fun. It's a very positive report. I'll heads up for that. Navy's in trouble with what I think already. I just want to solidify it. I'm going to watch a little more film in the morning. I've watched some of the game already, but UCF should pound Navy, just literally hint. And I think that's the reason that UCF will win this game going away, with or without Mikey. But the injuries are a concern of mine. That is the one conundrum. If they were healthy, I'd call it right now 3-touchdown victory, flat out. Injuries change the game for any team at any level. So signing off, Brian Smith for the Daily Night and Inside the Knights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. Everybody have a great rest of your evening.